With summer fast approaching, this is an exciting and important time in the garden. So just to keep you on track, here are my essential jobs for May. My first job this month is planting tomatoes. If you've grown your own from seed and they're now about 6 inches, 15 centimetres high, and danger of frost is past, that's usually from the middle of May to the end of the month, you can plant them out. If you haven't grown your own, you'll find a wide range of them now for sale in nurseries and garden centres. A tried and tested way of growing them is in grow bags. Some manufacturers produce grow bags specifically for growing tomatoes. Before you break it open, shake the bag so the compost inside is evenly spread. I then cut 2 holes in the grow bag. 2 is sufficient for tomatoes because their roots are quite beefy. Cordon tomatoes are a good option for a grow bag. They grow on a single stem and are quite heavy croppers. They need a cane to support them. So first I add a special grow bag cane support, which I then press together before sliding the cane into position. That way it's held firm even when you're tying the plant to it. Then cut them to about 1 metre high. Then it's time to plant. I make a hole in the compost with my hand and then gently slide the tomato plant in and tying the plant to the cane support. I use a figure of 8 knot to cushion the plant rather than restrict it. Tie the stem of the tomato plant loosely to the cane as it extends and nip out any side shoots that form between the leaf and the main stem to concentrate the plant's energy on setting fruit on the trusses of flowers that grow right the way up the stem. My final trick is to sink a pot with the label next to the plant. That way, when I want to water it, I can fill up the flower pot and the water gets straight to the roots where it's needed. If you have the space to grow them in a bed or border, enrich the soil with multi-purpose compost. Use a hand fork to mix it in. Then plant them about 1 foot apart. And again, make sure they're well watered. May is a great time to be adding new plants to your beds and borders, and if you want height, then you'll be thinking about climbers. There's a wide range of climbing plants available, so it's important that you study where they're going to grow before you decide which ones to pick. If you're planting in full sun, clematis is a good option as long as you keep the roots in the shade. Varieties like shimmer give you large purple flowers and are good for smaller areas, while a more vigorous variety like Clematis montana can grow up to 12 metres and has masses of pink flowers early in the season. If you're planting in a shady spot or a north or east facing wall, a reliable option's Hydrangea petiolaris. It has fresh green foliage in spring and pretty white flowers in summer. And if your garden's small, then Solanum glasnevin with its clusters of purple flowers is also a good choice. If you're planting your climber in a container, add a loam-based peat-free compost with added John Innes. It holds onto moisture and nutrients for much longer than a peat-free multi-purpose. Make sure the plant's well watered before removing it from its pot, and firm the soil around it as you plant to ensure there are no air pockets. Remove the staples and the existing canes from the plant. When you're easing the stems apart, be really careful not to break them. They're very fragile at this stage. To attach them to trellis, use really soft twine and tie them in with a figure of 8 knot. Then give the plant a really good watering in. With lots of new plants going into the garden this month, the one thing you should be thinking about is companion planting. What is companion planting? It's putting together plants which enjoy each other's company for various reasons, and it's particularly handy on the veg patch. By planting flowers on the veg patch, you encourage pollinating insects to visit, and they make sure that flowers on things like peas and beans are much more likely to set fruit. Plants with large single daisy flowers like cosmos are a magnet for bees and butterflies, as is dianthus, which flowers right through the summer, and scabious, which I always find a place for in my veg patch, because my granddad grew it. A good companion for tomatoes is tagetes, the small flowered French marigold. Plant it in the same soil as your tomato plants, and their strong smelling roots seem to discourage insects like whitefly that feed on the sap of the tomato plant. If you're growing climbing French beans, then grow sweet peas on the same supports to encourage insects to visit. Allow a gap of 8 to 12 inches between each plant, and make sure the soil's enriched with soil improver before you begin. Peas and beans love moisture-retentive earth. Next on my list of jobs for May, planting up containers. You can create all kinds of different styles, but I have a few rules I keep in mind, whichever plants I choose. First, make sure you fill the container with multi-purpose peat-free compost that has added loam. The added body will hold onto nutrients and offer anchorage in windy weather to see your plants through to the end of the year. I like to combine plants that fall into 3 categories: thrillers, spillers and fillers, and combine foliage and flowers in the same pot for a contrast of textures and colours. In a cottage garden inspired container, my thriller is a striking foxglove. The fillers are hostas with their lush leaves alongside blue scabious and osteospermums. And there's a spiller to soften the front of the container, classic variegated ivy. Whatever style of container you plant, make sure you water it well, at least once a day in the summer. And to keep your planters healthy, feed them once a week with dilute liquid feed and keep nipping off any faded flowers. One plant I always get asked about, certainly in terms of which varieties to choose, is the rose. It's now too late to plant bare root roses, which have been dug up and lifted from nursery rows, but it's a fine time to plant container grown roses that you buy already growing in a pot. Now, roses are greedy plants and they need plenty of food at the roots, so if you're planting them in beds and borders, add plenty of well-rotted compost or soil enricher before planting. You can even buy rose, tree and shrub compost that's specially formulated for the plant. If you're planting in a pot, then a more concentrated compost like John Innes No. 3, which has lots of nutrition, works really well. Add some compost to the pot so that it's about half full, and make sure the rose is well watered before you take it out of its existing pot. Aim to make sure that the rootstock at the base of the plant, where the variety is grafted on, is under the surface when planting is complete. That improves stability because the variety on top will start to root down and give it even more nutrition. Once the plant's in, I add more compost, firming it as I go to ensure there are no air pockets, before filling the pot with water to the top of the rim. I think no garden is complete without a rose, for colour, for fragrance, and just for the sheer joy of watching them open. Summer's well on the way now, and as well as remembering all these jobs, remember too to find a spot where you can sit down, have a cup of tea, and particularly early in the evening, listen to the birds, enjoy the fruits of your labours, and just think to yourself, Aren't I lucky to be a gardener? Gardening is my passion and I want to share it with you. So subscribe now and let's get gardening together.